Good afternoon, everybody. It is lunchtime on Wednesday. Weird day when you don't have a regular schedule that you kind of lose track of what day it is. It is Wednesday, March 25th, I believe, and I just wanted to put something out real quick. The videos lately have been long and they have been a lot of work to produce, so I just wanted to do something really cheesy today in terms of production, because I didn't want to bother anybody, and I wanted to give you a personal message from myself about mental health and agriculture, especially in these times. So here we are in one of our fields up here on the North Mountain overlooking the Bay of Fundy and Parsboro, and we can actually see all the way to New Brunswick on a clear day. It's beautiful. And I come down here often to rest and try and regain a little bit of sanity, occasionally cry, but not often, thankfully. But I just wanted to tell you a little story about my last couple years. I turned 40 last year, and in the course of that year, I suffered a pretty serious mental breakdown and was pretty shattered and broken mentally and emotionally for some time. Additionally, I was diagnosed with adult ADHD at the age of 40 and got onto the medication science art form treadmill with my doctor, who, by the way, is the best lady on the planet, and fortunately found medication that worked for me fairly quickly. At the same time, we really struggled with the business. There was a lot of uncertainty at the time. There was a lot of change happening. There was, it was a very difficult time for the company because we had always been this small owner-operator thing on the retail side, and we had to change how we operated into something that was a bit more official and formal and able to grow, safely and sustainably over the future. And it required a lot of soul searching and admitting a lot of mistakes that I had made, and kind of laying yourself bare and facing all your own entrepreneurial demons or whatever it is. But anyway, it was a tough year, and by the end of the year, I was pretty broken and pretty shattered. And it wasn't until kind of end of January, early February, incidentally when my birthday was, turned 41 in February, and started to talk more about this ADHD diagnosis and my struggles with anxiety and the anxiety medication that I'm on and the ADHD medication that I'm on. And one of my greatest champions and supporters, of course, is my wife. And she quickly took it upon herself to learn how to be the external supports that I need in my life around my mental health and my diagnosis, and taught me how to accept that help and admit my struggles and my suffering, and stop thinking that everything is just because I'm a bad person, but actually stems from a place of brokenness and struggle and suffering. And the mistakes and stupid things that I've done over the last while, personally and professionally. I'm not the greatest husband in the world, and I'm not the greatest dad in the world, no matter how much I want to be. But the way that I've always thought about these things is that I am just bad. I make bad decisions. I do stupid things. I'm impulsive. I do irrational, crazy things. I can't stick anything through. I mean, ask the executive team that I work with at work, who have been with me for a while. They can tell you how difficult I can be to work with, And I always thought it was just because I sucked. I was less of a person than everybody else. And my wife and my counselor and the people at my church, the people I work with, my family here on the farm, they all began to help me to see that it's not that I'm a terribly crappy person, but that there's a lot of brokenness inside and a lot of suffering that's gone on, as well as the bad decisions that I've made. And so it's been a really interesting journey for me to go from that place of kind of looking through camera one like I am now and seeing the world through that lens of I'm a failure and can't see anything through, to camera two, up there on the Jeep, that is more of a bigger picture and says, no, this is a different perspective, and look, this is much more, there's many more facets to this issue and this diagnosis and your struggles than you originally thought. There's actually a lot of cameras, and I'm still discovering all those different perspectives. So I wanted to say that to just lead into a bit of an encouragement for those of you who are in agriculture, those of you who are worried right now. There's a lot of things to be worried about, and the isolation that comes. It was that isolation thing that got me thinking when I was talking with Greg yesterday out at his place on the deck. I thought, this is as close as I'm going to get to somebody that's not in my immediate family for a long time. And that kind of caused a little bit of panic, because I've realized over the last couple of months that what has been the largest factor to my mental health, aside from my diagnosis and proper treatment, is all the people around me. And I'm not one to let people in very close. I love people, and I love knowing everybody, and I love being able to tell everybody our story and call everybody friend. But because of these anxieties and all these things I've been through in my life, I tend not to let people in. But having done that and discovered the joy and the strength that comes from allowing other people to know you and help you, then all of a sudden we're in isolation, and it's like, oh gosh, what are we going to do? So that's actually been one of the main reasons why I wanted to do these videos over this time, was because we need to be hearing from each other and talking to each other, learning from each other, and basically seeing this perspective through everybody else's cameras as well as our own, right? If all I do is come out into this field and talk into this camera forever and never look through a different camera, it'll get pretty boring pretty quick. And I think that's a pretty important thing we need to remember, is let's make sure that we're exposing ourselves to each other, revealing ourselves to each other, being vulnerable to each other, and making sure that these anxieties and fears and uncertainties or whatever mental health issues you might be struggling with around whatever issue it is, if it's agriculture and work and food security, or if it's something else completely different. I don't know what situation you're in, but whatever it is that you're dealing with, roiling around inside, verbalize it. Gentlemen, especially you, gentlemen who are 20 years or older than me, who are still farming, who have white hair and a ton more experience and wisdom than I do, let me encourage you, talk about these things. Talk to your wife. You don't have to get on Facebook and be some sort of vulnerable millennial superhero, but you do need to tell your wife that you're afraid if you are, or that you've got some fears if you have any. So I love you and don't want you to suffer through that alone like I did for 40 years before I learned what I had to learn. So I'm cold, my hand is freezing, I'm gonna bail now. Just quick update on the shop stuff. We're trying to get open for today. Keep an eye on social media. We have reconfigured things pretty significantly to minimize the amount of traffic in the store. It looks a little bit ridiculous, but we've gone to great lengths to ensure that both our staff and you are safe. And we're only trying to be open when we have a full retinue of staff members who are comfortable working. We really don't want to push anybody into doing something that they don't want to do. So it may not be the most consistent at this point in time, but we do want to be open and make sure that you are getting your food. So incidentally, if you do know anybody that wants to come and work with us in the store in this time and be kind of a part of that essential service food supply, food chain, we do need some folks who would be willing to work behind the plexiglass, glass countermeasures that we've put in place and help our team. So I think I'll just leave it at that. I wish you all well in all sincerity. And in all sincerity, please stay safe. And safe doesn't just mean self-isolating and doesn't just mean physically, but please also stay safe mentally. Ensure that you are connecting with those around you who you love, who you trust. Take the risk to be vulnerable with some folks. And for those of you who don't have access to loved ones or close ones around you, please let me know through some sort of message on some sort of platform somewhere through the shops, and I can connect you with a lot of resources that are available. for folks that are in that situation. I think my nose is going to drip and it's making me uncomfortable. So I'm going to humbly just go now. Goodbye.